In this Adobe Photoshop tutorial, we're going to explore the frame tool. Frames are a useful way to mask images and then place other images into the frame. First, let's make a frame around an image. The first thing we want to do is open our image, and we notice that it opens as a background layer. Background layers aren't editable in the same way that regular layers are, so I'll convert this by double-clicking in the empty space of this layer's row, down in the layer panel. This will automatically bring up a box prompt that allows you to rename your layer and save it as a regular layer. I'll name it Farmland. The second thing I want to do is establish something that will be my frame. If I created a frame around this image now, it would look like this. We want something besides this negative space. So I'm going to start a new layer and hit Command F to fill it, and we're going to choose white. I will then drag it down underneath my Farmland layer. Now we're ready to frame. The frame tool can be found over here on our menu bar. It looks like a rectangle with an X inside it. Alternately, we can use keyboard shortcut K to switch to our frame tool. And over here we have an option of either a rectangular frame or an elliptical frame. In this case, I'm going to use the rectangular frame, and I'll drag it over a section of my image. Now our frame is established. We can see that in our frame layer, we have two small icons. The left is the frame itself, and on the right is the image icon. If you've highlighted the image icon, you can use your Move tool, shortcut V, to move your image around while the frame stays put. If we highlight the frame icon, we can manipulate our frame size without affecting the image. And if we double-click inside the framed image, both icons will be selected, and we can move them around together. Now that we know how frames work, let's put them to use. I have a picture of a guest bedroom here, and I want to add some nautical themed designs to the back wall to see what it'll look like. I'm going to leave the image layer as a background layer. I want to get rid of the framed pieces on the wall first so that I can imagine the wall being blank. So I'll select the rectangular marquee tool, which is shortcut M, and I'll click and drag a rectangle around those framed pieces. Then I'll go to Edit Fill or Command F, and a dialog box pops up. Instead of a color, I'm going to select Content Aware. Press Enter and Photoshop does a pretty good job of envisioning what the wall looks like with nothing on it. Good, so now we go to our Custom Shape tool. It's over here on our menu bar under Shape Tools, shortcut U, and select Custom Shape. If we don't see the Custom Shaped panel, we can find it by going to Windows, Shapes. One of our custom shape groups are boats, so I'll click and drag a sailboat onto my image. Enter to confirm. I want more boats, so I could do one of two things. I could keep dragging more boats from my Shapes panel, or I can simply switch to my Move tool, shortcut M, and hover over my shape. Holding down the Option key, I click and drag, which duplicates the shape. Before I do that though, I do need a way to figure out how to place my boats, and so I'm going to push Command Z to back up a bit, and then hover my cursor over this measurement bar, and click and drag, bringing a guide onto my image. If you don't see that ruler, go to View, Rulers. While we're in this menu, let's make sure that View Snap to Guides is selected as well. This allows our shapes to snap perfectly to our guide. I'll drag a few guides from my measurement bar down onto my image. These guides will not be printed or saved in the image. They're simply to help you while you're editing. So with some guides in place, I'll select my Move tool, shortcut V, and then holding down the Option key, I'll click and drag from any sailboat, and I'll move these duplicate shapes onto the right place using my guide as a reference. Now we've got a handful of boats that look like they're in a pretty decent pattern. So I want to turn them into a frame. However, I don't want to have to do the same thing for each layer, and we'll notice that each shape has now created its own layer. So I'm going to select all the shape layers, find the drop-down menu on the right, and choose Merge Shapes. Now we have all our boats on the same layer, and we can go to Layer, New, Convert to Frame. Now I've got some designs in my library that I thought might look good, so I'm going to drag them from my library into my frame, or you can drag them from your desktop into your image. And we can try a few different ones, and they automatically snap right into our frame. None of these are looking as good as I thought, probably because the designs I've chosen have a lot of white space in them and the boat isn't really well defined. One way to change that is by adding a stroke to my frame. So with my left frame icon selected, I can find my Properties panel, Window Properties, and here I can place a stroke around the boats. That does help a bit. Another thing I can do is simply add a new layer, fill it with color, and drag it below my frame layer. I'll click on the right icon, which is for the image, and hit delete. And since frames always want to grab something and put it inside them, our frame automatically pulls that layer that's below it into the frame, and now I can see what it would look like to have my boats just be one solid color.